The Baltimore Ravens look absolutely pathetic in their Week 4 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, and the season is looking on the ropes for a lot of different reasons. Changes have to be made, and we talk about all that and a lot more coming up on an instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here on this Sunday night, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen each and every single day. And also thank you for all the everydayers out there, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage here. And on today's show, we all know why we're here. The Baltimore Ravens, they lose in pathetic, embarrassing fashion to the Kansas City Chiefs in week number 4. 37-20 is the final score, but if we're being honest, the score didn't really feel that close because it really wasn't. Justice Hill scored a garbage time touchdown, and defense was horrendous. The offense doesn't get a lot going after their game opening drive, I guess, against the Chiefs. And the rest is kind of history. Poorly coached, poorly executed, and a lot of injuries piling up all across the board here. I just, it's my job to say words about the Ravens. I have a lot of them, but I also don't at the same time. I don't yet. There's a quote that just popped up from Chris Jones, and, he was a big impact player in this game. He had to go to a funeral today. Chris Jones was the ultimate definition of grit and empowering through. And again, my prayers and thoughts go out to Chris Jones and everything that he's going through. The Ravens, they're not gritting and grinding through these games. It seems like they're giving up. Chris Jones, that's the definition of not giving up, right? You go through a tragedy in your family. You make it work to come back and play in a game to help your teammates. That's inspiring. The Ravens are not playing inspired right now. This team is playing pathetic football, and they'll be the first to tell you that. John Harbaugh said they're not a good football team yet. They're not a good football team, period, right now. They're just not. They're just not. And when you look at this game in particular, you start off the game fast. You're up 7-3 at the end of the first quarter, and then the floodgates open. The Chiefs, this is the craziest out of the entire game to me. The Chiefs did not punt the ball until there were about 3 minutes left in this game. The Chiefs drives, just to go through play by player, I guess drive by drive. Chiefs drives, field goal, touchdown, missed field goal, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. Then there was the punt, and then the last drive was just the end of the game. This is on everybody, right? This is on every single person in that organization. Players, coaches, front office members, everybody has a part to play in this. Now, when you look at Ravens falling to 1-3, you've gone up against 3 premier teams that you might have to see in January and February. And you were ran off the field in 2 of them, and in 1 of them, you allowed them to come back and win the game after you had a 99.4 conversion or percent chance to win the game. This is not about the Ravens losing to good teams, right? The Chiefs are a good team, despite how they've played to start the year. The Lions, they're a good team. The Bills, they're a good team. It's not about them losing to good teams. It's about how they are losing and the things that have popped up for this franchise over and over again over the last however many years you want to go back. It's unacceptable. It's inexcusable. And I do think that changes have to be made here. I usually, again, and now my deadline's done. We're a month into the season, and we now can see this defense is awful. The offense works in spurts. And again, it's not really on the offense here. They had a bad game. I get it, but they put up all the 30-point games and all that. The offense still has to improve in areas, right? Beginning of the game, the offensive line looked good. And then, you kind of see Lamar didn't have a great game in this one. We can be honest about that. He made a couple of bad decisions and, cost the Ravens momentum at times. He made a couple of great throws too. I'm not saying he was this was the worst game of his career, but, the Ravens, it's ridiculous. And again, the Ravens, they can't back up Kyle Hamilton's spoiled comments. Spoiled about what? This defense is the worst in the NFL. in so many categories. It's about to become even worse. And what encapsulates this entire game was the fact that when the Ravens had an opportunity to get momentum, they had 2 straight delay of game penalties in a row, back to back, essentially 2 back-to-back delay games in a row. That's inexcusable. The Ravens doubled the amount of penalties they had in week 3 in this game. They had 6 penalties in like the first 16 minutes or something, or first quarter and a half. And the run defense was not bad for the first half. And then the Chiefs started to try to make some more things work. But like the misdirections, defense was so confused out there. Guys were lost on plays. And again, this is a Chiefs offense that was very middling to borderline bad in the first 3 weeks of the season. They made them look like the 2019 Ravens out there. Like legitimately, they looked like they could not be stopped. In fact, they legitimately almost were not stopped. There are so many things the Ravens have to look themselves in the mirror here about. And it's not just about, I get that guys were injured, right? I understand that guys were injured. You lost a lot of guys to injury in this game. There were no updates from John Harbaugh. We heard from, I believe, Gianna Hahn of the Baltimore Banner. Lamar was limping to the locker room after the game. Nate Wiggins was in a sling. That's also poor coaching, in my opinion. Not getting the starters out, and it might have cost you Nate Wiggins, who, whether that's a collarbone, an elbow, bicep, whatever it may be, you might have lost one of your best defensive players in a game that was so far out of reach. Cooper Rush was in the game at that point, and the Ravens are still playing their starters. There was no gain to doing that. You think they'd learn from the J.K. Dobbins thing, and they clearly did not. It just feels like, and this is the big thing to me, right? This is where I draw the line personally. There is no life in this team right now. There is absolutely no life in this team right now. Everybody looks dejected. Everybody looks uninspired. Everybody looks like, I don't want to use the word given up, but that seems to be what happened today. Everybody does not look to be on the same page. And we saw, like last week, Lamar Jackson, how frustrated was he? It seemed like after every play it was like, what are we calling? What are we doing? Why are we doing this? And, in this game, he was more frustrated, I feel like, at himself, but clearly they're just not on the same page. Like whether it's the coaching staff and the players or the messaging or whatever it is, the vibes on this team right now might be the worst I've ever seen in the Lamar Jackson era. Maybe you could even extend that into the Joe Flacco era at this point, because when you have the expectations you have going into the season, to have a game or a start to the year like this, again, it's not about the fact that they're losing these games. There was a very realistic possibility that even if they were playing a lot better than they are right now, they still could have been 1-3 considering their schedule. But it's how they've lost. It is how they have lost. And injuries are one thing, but they also weren't playing well with those guys in either. Like, especially defensively, right? Nnamdi was their best pass rusher. Even when Nnamdi was playing, the defense didn't play that well. Like that's the problem, where injuries certainly can explain certain things, but I'm not going to use that as an excuse, because one, every team goes through that and you just kind of have to adapt. I mean, look, the Ravens have been very healthy over the last 2 seasons. We weren't using injury excuses for any of the other teams that were dealing with the injuries, like the Bengals or whoever. I mean, Kyle Hamilton, I see, apologized to Ravens fans. I'm trying to see what he said, but the spoiled comments officially, I think, and that's what I expected to happen anyway, because those comments were, ridiculous in the first place. And I'll have to read what he said. He said he used a poor choice of words and the product on the field isn't good enough. I mean, credit to him for apologizing, but, he did kind of stand on business with that. And the comments are wrong in the first place, but spoiled where, right? Spoiled was the wrong choice of words. I'm sure he looked at it and he saw that, but nobody at this point feels sorry for the Ravens or feels like, the thing with the spoiled comments is no one was asking the Ravens to be the best defense in the NFL in every single category. It's not like the Ravens were a top 5 or top 10 defense. And, everybody's saying, we want them to be the best. The top 5 isn't good enough. No, this is legitimately the worst defense in the league. And you cannot use any excuses anymore. And I said this on the watch along. We do Locked on Ravens watch alongs during every game. We react to every single play. It's always fun to do the watch alongs. I have a lot of fun doing them. Obviously, the game itself was not fun. But I said on the watch along, I'm like, my tune has changed. legitimately, my tune has changed here about what needs to happen here. There needs to be a change. Because the one thing that you cannot do here, if you're the Ravens, is one, waste an opportunity. It already feels like the season is it's not over. I want to say that there is still time, but they're not going to win a lot of games playing the way they are. They're just not. And their story cannot also just be, hey, we're going to beat up on the bad teams and lose with the good teams. You're not going to get very far in January with that. So at this point, you need to figure it out defensively. I think that requires a change. I don't think that changes John Harbaugh. I want to make that clear too. I think the Ravens during the offseason, again, whether Harbaugh should be fired or not, that's a whole different conversation. And that's an opinion I know a lot of Ravens fans have, whether it's yes or no. But I don't think the Ravens will fire John Harbaugh during the season. I think that would be an after the season thing. I don't think John Harbaugh deserves any more shields, but I think that Zach Gore might be used as one. And so that could be the change that has to be made here. But this is an embarrassing product you've put out there on the field for 3 of the first 4 weeks of the season. And it's all in different ways, right? Obviously, the Bills game being what it was at the end of the game, the Lions game, you get beat up in the second half. And this Chiefs game was essentially over from like the start of the second quarter. It's embarrassing. It is just absolutely embarrassing the way that this team looks right now. And all of these players, like, yes, they'll tell you, yeah, it's on us. And yeah, it is. All the coaches will tell you we need to coach better. Yeah, it's true too. There is no one singular fix. And that's a problem when you're only a month into the season. Jonas Schaefer saying the Ravens, this is their biggest blowout loss since 41-17 against the Bengals in 2021. Now, that year they won 3 of their next 4, but then Lamar Jackson's injury happened. And look, we don't know. Again, John Harbaugh, no updates on any of that. But you can't sit here and tell me this team looks good right now. You can't. Is the Ravens, right? They can't sit there and say, yeah, well, we can take positives. No one wants to hear that right now. No one wants to hear that right now. And when you're in a situation when you have all these expectations placed on you during a Super Bowl or bust season, which John Harbaugh has vehemently said is not the case, which is wrong, by the way, you can't go out there looking like this. You can't go out there looking like this, right? That is what it is. And I see we got a comment, bare minimum, Lamar is not a fan of the play calling based on body language. I don't think Harbaugh's lost the guys completely, but there's definitely frustration brewing. Look, it's wild I'm about to bring this up right now, but I'm going to. I'm a Denver Nuggets fan, all right? And the reason that they won the championship back in 2023 was because there was all sorts of locker turmoil with one of their players, Bones Highland. You know, he wasn't happy with his role. He was causing distractions. You know, the locker room wasn't feeling it. The Nuggets said, we feel like we can win a championship this season. We don't want any distractions. They essentially shipped Bones Highland off for a fraction of his trade value. The locker room got better. There was no distraction. They went on to win the championship. You can't have distraction. We talked about it last year with the Ravens. How bad were those vibes? How bad were the vibes with Eddie Jackson and Deontay Johnson and Marcus Williams and like all of those situations? And they ended up kind of snuffing them all out. Deontay got cut. Eddie Jackson got cut. Marcus Williams stepped up and, didn't cause any trouble. But you can't win when your team is just so clearly, whether it's disconnected, not on the same page, whatever it may be. That's the problem. That's the problem. And Steve Bisciotti's made it clear, hey, I want to win now. That's what Steve Bisciotti said. And this is not a product on the field that is going to help them win anything when they continue to play like this. So coming up in the second part of the show, we'll talk about the injuries continuing to pile up. We'll dive into some more stats from this game as well, and a lot more. Stay tuned. We got a lot coming your way on this instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens. This episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And there's a local spot in Baltimore, Fed Hill, Be More Licks. And Fed Hill comes alive every Sunday during football season. Everyone's in team colors. The energy is incredible, and it feels like the entire area is there cheering together. Those local spots are what makes the neighborhood feel like home, and so many of them run on Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See ya in the neighborhood. And the show is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks. Even more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Ravens, I'm going to say Justice Hill delivered in a big way. Obviously, he had the long touchdown run, but he was more involved in this game for sure. 2 touchdowns total, and wasn't a great start to the year for Justice, but he powered through. He stepped up, and while it didn't necessarily mean anything in the box score at the end of the day, he had a lot better of a game, so no hesitation, no delay there from him. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Justice Hill, he's been on a streak really ever since last season. I know a little bit of a rough start, but he's certainly on a streak. And just like Justice Hill delivered for the Ravens, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. Moving along on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still instantly reacting to the Ravens' absolutely embarrassing 37-20 loss to the Chiefs in week number 4. They dropped to 1-3. I really appreciate everybody for being here and making us a part of your night here on Locked On Ravens. Whether you did watch the watch along with us or you're along for the ride during this instant reaction show, we're going to have the Locked On Ravens squad show right after this with myself, Sam Njoku, former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail as well. That's twice a week, Wednesdays and after game days. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along in audio form for 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage here. We'll have an episode tomorrow breaking down everything even further. But man, I'll tell you, this is just so disappointing. And they couldn't even put up a fight, I think, is the biggest issue for me, right? They couldn't even put up a fight. When you're asking for what you want to see, especially when you're talking about a team that had the aspirations that they do, right? Especially when you have the aspirations that they do, you know, this is getting you nowhere, right? This version of this team right now is getting you nowhere. And I said this on the watch along. Let's go back to 2019. Let's go back to 2019. In my opinion, that was the correct way to handle that situation. Now, for those that don't know or don't remember, the Ravens started 2-2 that year. They started 2-0, and then they lost to the Browns and the Chiefs. And in each of those games, the Ravens defense gave up 500 total yards of offense, 500 total in each game. Eric DeCosta said, no, we're done here. This is not what we're going to have happen. And he cut Tim Williams. Next week, he brought in LJ Fort and Josh Bynes. A couple weeks after that, he traded for Marcus Peters, started shuffling guys around. And that is what jump-started there. And they racked off 12 straight wins after that to go 14-2. A change has to happen. Now, I don't know if that's going to be Zach Orr. I don't know if that's going to be a player. I don't think it's going to be John Harbaugh. I just don't think the Ravens are going to fire him until after the season. But you can't keep going like this. You just can't. You know, in this game, there were a lot of plays where you could say, man, you really want that one back for the Ravens. I think Lamar's interception is probably the first one of those where he kind of throws it off his back foot. I don't think it was a good decision from him. I think he should have thrown that ball away. They were driving. They had the opportunity after the Chiefs. They held the Chiefs to a field goal. They had an opportunity to go up 14-3 in this game. They were really close. They were at KC's 32. You're at least probably getting a chance at points. It was on first down too. And he's intercepted. And that kind of, you know, the Chiefs got a field goal out of that. And the Ravens defense made a nice stand there to hold him. But then it's punt, it's turnover on downs, it's the fumble. Those are your next 3 possessions after that in Kansas City, even though they weren't playing their best game. And that's the crazy part too. Kansas City was missing opportunities as well, not scoring in the red zone, other opportunities, right? They were outplayed, they were outcoached. And that's inexcusable for a team with those aspirations, especially when they are telling us that, hey, defensively, we want to be like that 2000 Ravens defense standard. You know, we're tired of finishing where we want to finish. You know, we want all this. You know, Kyle Hamilton makes his spoiled comments, which clearly he's apologized for, but even still leaves a sour taste in your mouth. I'm sure it was the wrong choice of words. I'm happy he apologized, and shout out to him for doing that. But even still, the injuries to me are going to be the big question mark. This is a big turning point in the Ravens season. The Texans, by the way, who they play in week 5, just absolutely beat up on the Titans. And yes, the Titans. All right, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Texans, that's their first one of the season. But now you got the 1-3 Ravens and the 1-3 Texans battling it out. Because look, the season is not over in the sense of there aren't enough games to make this up. There are. Like, we can just be honest about that. Like, it's been bad. It's been awful. They need to make changes, but there's a lot of time to make this thing up. The schedule opens up. That's not what people want to hear right now. I get it, but I do want to add that context in. You do have to understand, though, that 1-4, I'm actually going to look it up right now. How many teams have made the playoffs after starting 1-4 NFL? Let's see. Let's see. Okay, it says possibly only 4 teams in the last 20 years have made. I don't know if this is right or not, so I'm not going to put that in stone. How many teams have made the playoffs? So this was in 2023. 253 teams have started the season 1-4 going back to 1970. Only 15 of those ended up making the postseason, the last team being Washington in 2020. So I'm not sure, like, again, this article was in 2023. I'm not sure what happened in 2024, but that's not great percentage-wise. What is that? 15 divided by 253. That's 6% of teams make the playoffs after starting 1-4. That is a place where you do not want to go. And the way they're playing, they're going to go there. Because the Ravens are coming off of a loss where they look dejected. They look tired. They look like they don't trust everybody. The messaging is off. The body language is bad. And the Texans just had their biggest win of the season. Those are two very different vibes heading into this year. Yep, and I appreciate it. 15 teams since 1970. I appreciate you. And this is, look, good comment. MLB saying Ravens are a sub-500 team, injuries or not. Injuries or not. And yeah, Eric, I know. I'm talking about if they lose to the Texans. So I'm looking ahead a little bit. I wanted to see the context. 1-3, obviously, it's a lot better odds. You hope they can win that game. But man, it's tough. And let's talk about the Lamar injury a little bit and just the other injuries in general, kind of what happened. So at this point, I don't really know what happened with Lamar. Maybe it was the Cleveland game. He kind of had something happen to him. I don't know if he's been fully healthy. I mean, and Q will be the first to tell you, casual now, no player is fully healthy when the season starts. Everybody's banged up. But he exited the game, just went back to the sideline after the Ravens. I don't even remember what happened on that drive. And then Cooper Rush comes in with the minutes to go in the third quarter, and Lamar is getting his leg wrapped on the sideline. They call it a hamstring injury again. Gianna Hahn said he was limping in the locker room a little bit. So I don't know what happened there. Obviously, it'd be super bad news if Lamar's lost for any time, because Cooper Rush clearly did not show during the preseason or in this game that he's ready to be a starting quarterback for the Ravens. I mean, I've said the encapsulation thing a lot over the course of this show. The actual encapsulation of this game is on 4th and 2 from their own 10-yard line. Cooper Rush flings the ball out of bounds. Like, not even given a chance to his receivers, just flings the ball out of bounds. That, to me, is the ultimate thing. I see people talking about how Lamar quit on the team and like this, that, and I don't know if he's hurt. Like, the Ravens say he's hurt. He was living in the locker room. That's what we know, right? We don't really know a lot. I don't want to speculate too much on it and like how serious it is or what the situation was. Like, I'm sure everybody will be talking about that. But it wasn't just Lamar. Again, it was such a bad decision. The worst decision in the game, in my opinion, was keeping the starters in when Cooper Rush came in. That is the point. You're already down, 3 scores at that point? Maybe 4. I'm trying to block it out as best I can. I don't want to remember. But again, you're down by at least 3 possessions, and your starters are still in. And Isaiah Pacheco just bowls over. And again, it was a good tackle by Nate. He actually stopped him, and I think it became 4th down at that point. But, Nate Wiggins in a sling, apparently, according to Gianna Hahn there. You cannot afford to lose Nate. Because we talk about the injuries. The Ravens were not good even when the guys are in there. Roquan Smith, 3 of these first 4 games has looked terrible. The one game was against Cleveland. Marlon Humphrey looks terrible. Like, these guys are playing and they're still not playing good defense. And on top of that, now you have to throw in rookies and guys who are inexperienced. Even like Keon Martin looked a lot better than Marlon did in this game today. It is what it is. So I don't know. And actually, I see, going over the box score a little bit, and I think MLB put it in the chat here. 8 carries for Derrick Henry in this game. When it was working, Derrick Henry averaged 5.3 yards per carry. This is as big of a coaching issue, if not bigger, than it is a player issue, right? You look at Zach Orr, and again, it's like you're sending a lot of blitzes, and that's what he should have done. So, like, I do give credit to Zach Orr on that. He should have sent the pressure and the blitzes. But it didn't get there a lot of the time. I think he could get more creative with those as well instead of just sending guys up the middle. We know that Mahomes can pick you apart in those moments. And again, if they don't get pressure on the Texans and CJ Stroud in week 5, that offensive line is absolutely awful. You're in a really, really, really bad spot. 8 carries, 42 yards for Derrick Henry there, 5.3 yards per carry for Derrick Henry. Justice Hill's stats and his 71-yard run is going to inflate those numbers, obviously. So Justice had 3 for 5 or 2 for 5. So is it 5 plus 48 plus 42? If people were watching the watch along, you know my math is not my strong suit. And then it would be 14 plus 2, so 16. So it'd be 16 carries for 95 yards. What do we got? 95 divided by 16. How many yards per carry is that without? So still 5.9 yards per carry, almost 6 yards a carry without that Justice Hill long run. That's still really good. That should be something you're playing into, not going against. And again, it's just like they're too cute. You know, some of Lamar's throws weren't great. He made other great ones, like the one to Rashod. Bateman was awesome. He had a couple to Zay, which were awesome. But then you have the penalties too. This was a sloppy game. There's all that sloppy, undisciplined, everything that you can say about this team. The Ravens, yeah, that kind of encapsulates what they did. Now, they didn't have a penalty after they had that long stretch of penalties in the first quarter and a half, but still, that got you out of position to make really big plays. So at this point, you have to look in the mirror for the Ravens and understand that this is not good enough. You know, Derrick Henry saying they're the better team today, right? Everybody saying, the players, coaches saying that, we need to get it fixed. This is on us. We've been hearing that for years. They don't need any more fuel poured onto their fire. They don't need any more revenge tours. Something has to change, and it has to change really, really quickly. So coming up with the final part of the show, we'll continue diving into this Ravens team and just where they need to go from here, what changes could be made, and a lot more. So stay tuned. A lot coming your way on this instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IHS top safety pick plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athlete sweat, all the details, Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls with all-wheel drive, standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Continuing on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on an instant reaction edition of the show. The Ravens lose in embarrassing fashion again, 37-20 to the Chiefs. Appreciate everybody for being here again. Hit the like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along in audio form. We're just under 100 subscribers away from 15,000, which is a huge goal of mine here on the YouTube side of things. On the audio side of things, that community grows each and every single day. So thank you whether you watch or listen to the show. We have 5 days a week plus more Ravens content, as I mentioned. Monday through Friday is the regular show. We got the Locked On Ravens watch alongs. We got the instant reaction shows like this one. We got the Locked On Ravens squad show, which is coming up with myself, Sam Njoku, and former Ravens receiver Kajri Ismail right after this. We also got the bonus episodes going on. Lots of stuff to talk about this Ravens team. So be sure you tap in, tell a friend, tell a family member. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChaosStriker34, as well as Instagram and TikTok. Now, I don't know what the change should be here. Like, I now have almost come to peace with the fact that I believe it should be Zach Orr. I don't know if there's going to be like any personnel change they can make. Like, I don't know. They do need to get guys back. Guys need to get healthy. But at this point, you are telling everybody the team that you are right now, which is a momentum team. They need to have all the momentum in a game or things just spiral for them. It just spirals. And usually it doesn't result in like these massive blowout losses. Again, Jonas Schaefer saying this is the worst loss the Ravens have taken point-wise since that Bengals game in 2021. But I just think at this point, someone has to be an example here. And I think that the defense just has not been good enough. And it hasn't just not been good enough. It's been downright abysmal. And so, I see Kieran saying, Kevin, let's make Monken the head coach and make Pagano the DC. That could happen in the off season, right? I think that the or thing, if or gets fired, I think Pagano does become the DC. I think that is kind of the line of succession there for sure. I just don't see the Ravens firing Harbaugh during the year. Now, again, that could be the right decision or the wrong decision. I've made my thoughts clear on John Harbaugh. I think that this is it for him. Like, this is the end of the line. But you're seeing it like with Derrick Henry not on the field in these like short yardage situations and somebody's play calls. Like Todd Monken also, like he has not been up to he's not been up to snuff either. Like all of this is really, really bad. And someone has to be held accountable for it. Because again, it's the expectations. If this was the Browns or the Titans or a team that had no expectations, who cares? Thank you for draft picks. Learning a lot about your young guys. That's what you want. But you're a team that has had 3 golden opportunities to win a Super Bowl. 2019, 2023, and 2024. You have come up short in all 3 of those moments. And it's a year-to-year league, right? We said it all offseason. The Ravens have been extremely healthy over the last 2 seasons. Like, almost unnaturally healthy, considering their history, first of all, and just the way injuries go. Barely anybody has been lost for the season that, you know, they needed or was a star player. You wasted those opportunities. You had opportunities and you wasted them. So now you're in a situation where, yeah, you're dealing with injuries this year early on. Hopefully that stops. Knock on wood that all these guys are okay and they're able to come back and make impacts. You never want to see injuries. Never, ever. But it brings you back to like the what ifs. And the fact that this roster is not going to look nearly the same after this year, right? Mark Andrews has come alive over the last 2 weeks. Mark is probably not coming back to the Ravens next year. You know, Odafe hasn't had a great start to his season. He's probably not going to come back. Travis Jones hasn't been great. He's probably not going to come back. You know, Jaire Alexander he hasn't even played the past 3 weeks. He hasn't had a good start either. He's probably not coming back. You're going to have to make decisions on guys like Marlon Humphrey, Roquan Smith this offseason. You can save a little bit of money by cutting those 2 guys if you want to. So you're going to have to kind of scramble there. This roster on paper is the best in the NFL. But man, that's why you play the games on the field. And they are not playing the game. They're playing on the field like they are tanking for Arch Manning. Which obviously they're not. But that's what it is right now. That is who this team is telling us they are right now. Is that they cannot hang with these good teams. When they play bad teams, oh yeah, it's about to be a movie there. It's about to be fun. But even then, like even we've seen over the last handful of years, they lose the bad teams too. Like, and I'm not, again, this is what I want to say. Myself and I don't think anybody else is expecting perfection from the Ravens, right? I don't expect them to win every game. I don't expect them to never turn the ball over, to never have a bad game, to never give up touchdowns, to never miss kicks, to never do any of that. I don't expect perfection, but I expect at least competent football. And we haven't seen that in 3 of the first 4 weeks of the season, you know? And again, I get that they played well in the first 3 quarters plus against the Bills. That doesn't matter because you lost the game. It doesn't matter because you lost the game. So they're at a point now where something has to happen. You know, it has to happen. And, you know, you see the turnover. I don't know what the turnover differential is prime time. If you can put that in for me, I'd appreciate that because I don't have it updated. I don't know if you have it updated from the Chiefs game, but yeah, turnovers are also bad. And if you want a turnover thing, this is not just a this year problem. I've said this over, and I might still have the graphic, honestly, I can pull up on the show right now. Do I still have the graphic? I think I do. I should. Here it is, right here. Turnover differential in the Ravens playoff losses in the Lamar Jackson era. 15 turnovers for the Ravens offense. 2 takeaways for the Ravens defense. Minus 13 turnover differential as a whole. So this is not just they're really struggling this year with that. This has been a problem that they have identified that it needs to be fixed. And so the Ravens, if you want to know the last time, by the way, the Ravens have forced a turnover against a team that is not named the Cleveland Browns, and they played the Browns twice in this span, you go back to Christmas Day of last year against the Texans. Kyle Hamilton's interception on C.J. Stroud. That was the last turnover the Ravens have forced. It was not against the Cleveland Browns. It's disgusting. Like, it truly is. They need to get on the same page. Again, season's not over, right? You have a long way to go. There's a lot of games left. But if you keep playing like this, you're not going to win a whole lot of them. That's why something has to change. They have to look themselves in the mirror. And I do personally believe, I don't know anything, but I do personally believe that will happen. And I think that it might be Zach Orr. because I don't see a player personnel change that could work here. Like, you could try to bring in D linemen, right? Like, that could be possible. They should try to trade for a guy like Dexter Lawrence or Jeffrey Simmons or Quinnen Williams. Like, trade a first-round pick for a guy. I don't have a lot of belief they'll do that, though, because of the way they value draft picks. So at that point, I just think you do have to make it's a message. Like, you send a message, say, hey, this is not acceptable. And guys are going to start losing jobs because of it. And you never want to see someone lose their job. It's the worst thing in the world. You know, I hate talking about, you know, oh, should the Ravens fire this guy or cut this guy? Like, you never want to see someone lose their job. But when you're not performing as a team effectively and efficiently and holding up a standard here that clearly was set by the team this offseason, well, that is clearly not working, and something does have to change. So we'll see what they do. I don't know what it's going to be, but a lot of soul searching has to happen for this team. That's all I have for you, though, on this instant reaction edition of the show. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure on the way out, hit the like and subscribe button in video form and follow along in audio form for 5 days a week, plus more of daily Ravens coverage. We'll be back here about 8:30-ish, maybe a little after. We'll be doing the Locked on Ravens squad show with myself, Sam and Joker, and former Ravens receiver Kadri Ismail. So be sure you stay tuned for that. A lot more Ravens content coming your way. I'll see you right back here soon on Locked on Ravens.